What is up, guys? My name is Lex. Welcome back to the vlog. We are still here in Texas, as you can see, at the lodge. It is a very, very hot day today, like 95 degrees. We're ready to play some poker. It is packed in there. We got a seat at the 2-5 table. Brad Owen is on our right, so hopefully we can get some Bradley dollars. Let's hope we can run good as well. Let's get down to the table. Let's get to the action. Let's go. Starting off today at 2-5 no limit, buying in for $2,000. This is my third day here in Austin, Texas, and the first 2 days have not gone my way. I'm down over $7,000, making the wrong decisions, the wrong plays, basically losing almost every single hand. But today, it's all about to change. This session is super exciting. I can't wait to share with you guys. It's a ton of swings, huge pots. Let's get started. First hand we get dealt in, pocket eights from early position. I make it $25. Small blind makes the call, and then Brad Owen in the big blind, co-owner of the lodge, makes the call as well. Flop is 10 high, checks over to me. I bet $25. Small blind calls $25. Brad calls in the big blind. Turn is an ace, another overcard to our pair. When it checks to me, I check this one back. River card is a deuce, small blind checks. Brad decides to bet $50. I think about calling here with my pocket eights, thinking that maybe he's bluffing, but into two players for the sizing seems pretty ambitious of him, so I let my pocket eights go. Small blind folds, and Brad shows us an ace. A small pot there, but unfortunately no Bradley dollars for us. Moving on, Brad opens up under the gun to $15. There's a call. I have ace jack of diamonds in middle position. I decide to 3-bet to $60. I apologize in advance in this video. My hands are pretty beat up. I went to a local playground and did some pull-ups, and it really did a number on my hands. They look pretty rough. Brad makes the call. Middle position makes the call as well. 3 ways to a flop. Comes out queen, 10, jack. We flop middle pair. Brad decides to just open fold his hand. Under the gun 1 checks, I bet $50. Under the gun +1, it makes the call. We end up checking this board down, and I end up winning this pot against pocket nines. After getting crushed for 2 days straight, I'm just trying to book a win here in Austin. I've lost almost $7,000 making the wrong decisions, making the wrong calls, the wrong folds, and today my goal is just to try to book a win and get some positive momentum here. Under the gun makes it $25. There's a call. I have pocket queens in the small blind. Because the initial raise came from under the gun, sometimes we could flat call here, but this time I like to go with a 3-bet, which I think is the right play a lot of the time. I bump it up to $130. Under the gun thinks for a while. With about $2,000 in a stack, he decides $130 is not enough. Let's play for more. A 4th bet incoming here, $375. My opponent under the gun doesn't look like the kind of player who is playing poker for a living, which means I think his 4-bet range is going to be pretty strong here. Probably hands like aces, kings, ace-king suited, maybe ace-king offsuit, possibly pocket jacks. Against that range, I don't think a 5th bet would be good here with my pocket queens. We're either flipping against ace-king or we're crushed against pocket aces and kings, but I got to see a flop here for this price. So I decided to make the call. With about $800 in the middle, we're going to the flop in a 4-bet pot. It comes out ace, deuce, deuce, 2 hearts. I check over to the initial raiser under the gun. In a 4-bet pot on this board, he should have the range advantage. He's going to have aces and ace king, but it is possible he could still have pocket jacks, maybe pocket queens as well. He continues for a smaller bet of $275, and now we're in kind of a close spot. I do think a lot of the time we're going to be beat here by hands like ace-king, maybe ace-queen, and hands like pocket kings as well. If he does have pocket kings and he checks back the turn, I could potentially try to bluff the river to try to get him off that hand. If he does have queens and jacks, he's probably going to bet once and then just check it down from there. So I decided to get sticky here and make the call. The turn is a 10, which is also not the best card. If he somehow has pocket 10s here, he's now beating us. I check over to him, praying he'll check this one back and we can get to showdown. Not this time. He decides to rip his entire stack in there, over $1,500, and we have a pretty easy fold.
I wish I could. For the camera. For the camera? No luck.
Thanks. Good hand, good hand. Our opponent was nice enough to show us he had ace-king, which is going to beat our pocket queens. I reach into my bag, add on for more money. We're already down starting off this session, not the way we wanted it to go. With a full $2,000 in our stack, we're in the big blind with ace-king offsuit. Under the gun straddles to $10, cutoff raises to $50, button re-raises to $150, small blind folds, action on us in the big blind with ace-king offsuit. An interesting spot. I think the best thing to do here is to either fold or 4-bet. Given the fact that it's a cutoff open and a button 3-bet, they can have pretty wide ranges. So let's come in here with that warm 4-bet. I make it $450. I would definitely not be unhappy if both of my opponents folded, and we just took down over $200 pre-flop. Cutoff makes a pretty quick fold, and now the action's back over on the button. He has about $1,500 plus in his stack. If he makes a call here, we could be playing a huge pot out of position. After thinking for a while, he decides to let his hand go, which is fine with me. We take down over $200 pre-flop. Still stuck a couple $100 now. We're in the big blind again with ace king. There's a cutoff limp. The button now, a different player makes it $50. I'm going to keep the aggression going here. I re-raise to $205 and the button makes to fold again. We take down another small pot. Next up, no straddle. I'm in the small blind with queen 9 offsuit. I make it $15. Big blind makes a call. We're playing the small blind button bonus game, which means if the small blind wins the hand, they get the money on the button. Flop comes out 8-8-9, 2 clubs. I continue for $20 here with my top pair, and now the big blind, a pretty aggressive active player, raises me to $60. When the big blind raises immediately on this flop, he's basically saying he has trip 8s, and that's pretty hard to do. He wouldn't really be playing any overpairs of the board like this. He would most likely 3-bet that hand pre-flop. I put him on a bluff here like Jack 10, 6-7, 7-10, all open-ended straight draws. He could also be doing this with a flush draw as well, so I make the call, looking to evaluate on the turn. We see the 5 of diamonds, which is not the best card, does bring in 6-7 for a straight. I check over to him and he continues to tell a story that he has a strong hand. He makes it $125. This spot is very player dependent. If I was playing this spot against a nit, I would just fold my top pair, but against this particular player who is aggressive, I played with him before on other Texas live streams, I know he's capable of putting in some aggressive lines with bluffs, flush draws, straight draws, and value hands. Given the fact that I'm really only losing now to just a few hands, and I'm still beating a lot of bluffs, I make the call. The board gets really gross when the 6 of diamonds comes on the river. Now any 7 will make a straight. I check over to the big blind, hoping this goes check check and maybe my 9 is good, but that is not going to happen. My opponent continues to put on the pressure here. He slides out a bet of $300 in green chips, and now we're in a pretty close spot. I go into the tank and start thinking here. My opponent did raise me on the flop, so on the flop he was saying he had trip 8s, and would a hand like ace 8 or king 8 really be betting this sizing on the river on this run out when I could easily have a 7 myself? I also don't think he'd be betting this sizing with a hand like 6-7 himself either, because I could easily have a full house. I think he would be going a little bit smaller if he had a straight. So he's basically saying he has a hand like 8-5, 8-6, pocket 9s, or 8-9. Because there's still some bluffs available like Jack 10, and the flush draw misses, and I'm just sick of folding here in Texas, I decide to make the call. The big blind rolls over, Jack 10 offsuit for Jack high, and finally, after 2 long days here in Texas, we make the right decision and take down a decent pot. The table has now decided to do a mandatory $10 straddle. The game has been bumped to 5-10. Our stack is sitting about $3,700. So finally, our third day on this trip, we're up about $500 or $600 so far on this session. On to the next one. I'm in the cutoff. I get dealt in 5-6 of hearts, a beautiful suited connector. The double straddle's on, so it's 2-5-10-20. I raise the $75 back over to Under the Gun +1, who doesn't want to play for $75. He wants to play for more, but he re-raises super tiny to $170. I'm not sure what this small 3-bet sizing means, but no way I'm going to fold in position with such a pretty hand. I make the call. Heads up here to the flop of 3-7-7 rainbow. We flop a gut shot. My opponent checks, and I'm going to start bluffing here, trying to get him off ace or king high hands. I put out a bet, and this time it works. We take down another pot. This pot was small and boring, but it did feel like the momentum was finally swinging in my direction. After 2 days of getting crushed, things are finally starting to go my way. I'm dragging in some pots. I haven't made any huge bad decisions yet, and we're up about $800 now in the session. Like I said before, my goal for this session is just to try to book a win, try to get some positive momentum going in my direction again here in Texas. The double straddle's on again, 2-5-10-20. With ace-king offsuit in the hijack, I raised to $75. The cutoff player with $1,300 in a stack re-raises me here to $220. The player who re-raised me here in the cutoff is the same player who tried to bluff me earlier with Jack 10, and I called him down with Queen 9. He's had a couple rough hands, and I would say he's down a couple $1,000. With a $20 straddle on, his stack size of $1,300 is not even 100 big blinds. Every situation in poker is very player dependent. If my opponent was a nit, I could find a fold here, but this player is definitely not a nit. He's very aggressive. He can have some smaller pocket pairs, some suited broadways, and some worse ace highs. So for about $1,300 with ace king, I think we only have one option.
All in.
Tomorrow should be the meetup game, so
I 4-bet all in for the remainder of my opponent's stack, and we don't get snap called, which is great news. That means he doesn't have a pair, and he doesn't have ace king either, so I'm actually praying for a call. I'm hoping he has a hand like ace queen suited, maybe ace jack suited. After thinking for about 30 seconds, he decides to push his chips in there, so we're going to 5 cards here with ace king. Let's see if we can hold for almost a $3,000 pot.
That was the biggest.
that was the biggest.
Yeah, you gotta have like a 400, like if you're 600 down to one. I did the 16.
16.
Yeah.
Because like I think like in the lower the max was like 40k, and in the highest was like 100.
Yeah, for the one I did. That's good.
Okay, so that was the highest.
Well, we got a call with a hand that we love to see. King Queen suited, we had him completely dominated. The flop was 10-6-6. He was basically drawing dead. He turned a flush draw and he rivered a queen. So just like that, up $800 to now down about $400 or $500. It's really not that big of a pot or that big of swings, but after getting crushed 2 days in a row, making bad decisions, I'm finally in a good spot, looking to win a huge pot, ace king versus king queen, and we just can't hold. At this point, I was just super frustrated with this whole trip. I had a really rough 2 days, and finally things were going my way on day number 3. If I would have won this pot, I would have been up over $2,000, but that's just how poker goes. Gotta shake it off, move on to the next hand. With $1,300 less in my stack now and a little on tilt, I make it $50 over a limp with ace-10 offsuit. Cutoff makes the call for $50, button calls 50, big blind calls 50, and under the gun, limper makes the call as well. 5 ways to a 10-high board. Top pair top kicker seems like a great spot for me to bet. I put out $115 and only the under the gun player makes the call. Down to 2, heads up now, we see the deuce of hearts on the turn. There's around $500 in the middle, and under the gun player looks at me, looks down at his chips, and decides he just wants to go all in. He rips it all in here for 2x the size of the pot, $1,135 all in. What the heck in Texas is going on here? My opponent just jams all in. Would he ever do this with a strong hand? If he had a set like pocket 8s or 5s, would he just jam the turn for 2x pot? Would he be doing this with a 10x hand that I'm beating like Jack 10, Queen 10? It's a little unlikely. Really, the only hands that I'm losing to are pocket 8s and pocket 5s. He limp called pre-flop, so he shouldn't have an overpair. I just don't think he's really ever doing this with a strong hand. He could have a big combo draw, like a straight draw and a flush draw. My particular opponent here is here for fun, having some drinks, so given that player description, I decide to reluctantly put in the call. All in for a big one. If we lose this, we're going to be stuck over $2,000. The river is a queen of diamonds, and my opponent shows 7-4 of hearts for a straight and flush draw that misses, and our ace-10 is going to hold, and just like that, we get all of our money back that we just lost the previous hand, ace-king versus king-queen. Nowhere else in the country have I played poker and experienced some crazy swings like you do in Texas, some huge pots, ups and downs. It's really a crazy roller coaster ride here in Austin. Riding the crazy poker swings, double straddle on for 20 in this hand, folds to me in the $10 straddle with pocket 8s. I raise to $80. Under the gun plus one, $20 straddle, makes the call. Flop is jack, jack, deuce, rainbow. I bet $55. My opponent makes the call. Turn ace of hearts, I check. He bets 100, I call. River 3 of hearts, I check. He checks back, and we win. So far in this session, we were stuck 500, then we were up 800, then we were stuck 500 again, then we won 2 decent pots back to back, and now we're up about $1,500, all within about a 3-hour time period. Get ready for a fun one. Next up here, cutoff mix at $40 in a straddle pot. I have king queen offsuit in the small blind. I 3-bet to $175. Cutoff comes along with a call. The first 3 cards are good ones for us. King queen 8, 2 diamonds, flopping top 2 pair in a 3-bet pot. I continue for $225 and the cutoff matches my bet. The turn card is not good. It is great. It's the king of diamonds giving us a full house, the best hand possible. I want to continue to bet here, but not too big. I still want him to call with his straight draws, maybe his pair plus flush draws, or his ace-queen hands. So I bet smaller according to the size of the pot, $250. The cutoff doesn't think for too long and calls again. A big pot brewing here. Going to the last card, which is the 5 of diamonds. Now there's 4 diamonds on the board. My opponent has about $1,300 left, and I'm going to go for it all. After thinking for a while, I jam all in. The cutoff snap calls my bet. The full house is good, and just like that, things are finally turning around in our direction, winning over a $4,000 pot here with a full house. I'm guessing I coolered my opponent given the fact that he snap called the river. He probably had the ace-high flush or a worse full house, but either way, it feels good to finally get some chips pushed in our direction. Still riding the high from that last huge pot. I'm going to cut off here with pocket 10. Straddles off this hand. Under the gun raises to $15. We're super deep stacked, so I decide to 3-bet to $75. He makes the call. Heads up here in a 3-bet pot. In position, the board comes out 10 high. We make top set the nuts. Man, it feels good to run good in Texas. My opponent checks. I bet $115 and he makes the call. The flop is good, but the turn gets even better. It's another 10. We make quads, and my opponent checks over to me. It's kind of an interesting spot. What should we do here with quads? Obviously, we want to try to get paid. I actually think against this particular player, if I check back here, he may turn some hands into a bluff on the river. So I allow him to try to catch up or bluff here on the last card. I check back. The river card's a 7 of clubs. Front door flush gets there. I'm praying he has a hand like pocket 7s, or maybe the ace-high flush. I am really hoping he leads out with a bluff or a value bet so I can raise big, but not this time. He checks over to me. When under the gun checks this river, I think he has a hand with showdown value that he's looking to just check call, so I want to bet a sizing that he can call with all of his smaller pocket pairs, so I throw out $175, and without thinking for too long, my opponent makes the call, and as you can probably expect, quads are good, and we get some more chips pushed in our direction. What's funny is that quad 10s are actually the 3rd best hand on this run out. 9 6 of clubs and jack 9 of clubs are both straight flushes. How sick would it have been to make quads in Texas and lose to a straight flush? It would have been good for the vlog, but bad for my bankroll. Luckily now our stack has grown. We have over a $7,000 stack at a 2-5 game. With a $20 double straddle on, folds to me in the under the gun position with pocket kings. Let's keep this run good going. I make it 4x here, out of position, $80. Under the gun +1, the same guy who tried to bluff me with jack 10 and who called off with king queen suited and beat our ace king, makes the call. We're going heads up here, out of position. Flop comes out jack high, 2 diamonds. I decide to trap here and check over to him, and he checks back. Turn pairs the board another 7. I bet $125 and he folds. Only a $10 straddle in this next hand. There's a limp. Hijack raises to $50. I have ace of hearts, king of diamonds in the big blind. I make it big here, $225. I've been experimenting with my 3-bets out of position, trying to see what sizings people will call. Given the fact that people are super call happy here in Texas, I've been trying to go bigger. We end up going heads up here, out of position to king 7-9, 2 hearts. We flop top pair, top kicker, and the ace of hearts. In order to play balanced, sometimes I want to be checking and sometimes I want to be betting on this board, and this time I decide to check. By checking, I can allow my opponent to value bet a worse hand like some smaller pocket pairs. I can allow him to semi-bluff with flush draws or straight draws, or bluff with total airballs, thinking that I missed the board because I checked. The hijack does put out a bet, a pretty big one of $350. I go into the tank for a while considering check raising here, but I think the best line is just check call, which is what I do. We're going to the turn. 5 of diamonds really shouldn't change much of anything at all. I don't think my opponent's betting pocket 5s on that flop, and I don't think he's calling pre-flop with hands like 7-5 or 9-5, so I just continue to check over to him, and he continues to fire big this time, $700, and he only has about $450 left in his stack. My plan on the flop was to check for deception and allow my opponent to bluff and just check call all the way down, but this $700 bet is a little concerning. However, what kind of hands would he be betting this sizing with? I am concerned he could have flopped a set of 7s or 9s, but I actually don't think he would bet that big with a set. Given the fact that I checked over to him twice, I think he might be betting a little bit smaller. It feels like he has a hand like King Queen or King Jack, or he has a bluff like a flush draw and straight draw. So if he's got me beat, he's got me beat. We got top pair, top kicker, and a 3-bet pot. I'm just going to go with my hand. I'm going to put him all in for the rest of his $450, and he very quickly folds without even thinking about it. He must have been totally airball bluffing, not able to even call the last $450, but not going to complain. More chips going in our direction. What a crazy swingy session it was. After losing that ace-king versus king-queen, I was super tilted, but after that, we have just won huge pots back to back to back. Over an $8,000 stack now at a 2-5 game. No straddle in this next hand, so it's just $2, $5 blinds. With pocket fours, I open up the action here to $25. Fold to the big blind, who makes it $100. We're super deep stacked, so I make the call. In position here, we see a board of 6, 7 deuce, 2 clubs, 1 heart. He checks, and I check this one back. Turn 5 of hearts, now giving us an open ender. He bets $125. I have an open-ended straight draw and a pair, not going to fold, so I make the call. River's an 8, giving us a straight. Big blind checks again. And I'm just going to go for value here, trying to get called by 2 pairs, sets, or over pairs. I bet big, $400+, and this time the big blind lets his hand go. This may go down as one of the crazier poker sessions I have played. Just 2 hours ago, I lost all in, ace-king versus king-queen, and I was left with about $2,500 in my stack. And now 2 hours later, I have almost $10,000 sitting in front of me. The table gets shorthanded, so I end up calling it. I end up racking up my chips, heading to the cage, and cashing out for the night. All right, guys, that is it for this one. Booking a huge win at the lodge. Finally, we had a huge $4,700 loss. We had a $2,700 loss, and then today ended up profiting $6,400 and some dollars. So some pretty big poker swings the last 2 days. Was down like 7,000. And then now we're basically even. Today's session was pretty wild. Sat down, got to play with Brad Owen for about an hour or two. I was just grinding away up like $600 or $700, doing pretty good. Got it all in ace-king versus king-queen for like a $2,500 pot. Had him completely dominated, and boom, he hits a queen on the river. So that put us up $600 to then down like $700. All I was trying to do was just win one session. I was just trying to book a win. So after that hand, I was just pretty demoralized. I'm like, ugh, this trip is a bust. Like, I just can't win here. The games aren't that good. I'm just running like shit. But after that hand, I just started running like fire. Ace-10, my opponent just jams all in with a flush draw. We hold. Won a huge pot there with king-queen, 3-betting, making 2 pair, making a full house, stacking my opponent. Quad 10s, we had ace-king like 6 or 7 times and hit an ace or a king basically every time. Hit straights, people trying to bluff into us. Cashed out almost $10,000. So I'll take it. Much needed, much needed. Hope you guys are enjoying these Texas Lodge videos. I really like playing at the Lodge. Great dealers, great staff. People are always fun and nice. And it's a really cool place to play poker. And luckily today, we got them. We got them good. Over $6,000 wins. So I have one more video coming out from the Lodge here. It's going to be a live stream game, 2-5-10, which will be the next video after this one. It should be a pretty awesome lineup, so be sure to look for that one. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Until next time, I'll see ya.